production as a crisis-ridden dynamic of permanent class struggle. In other words, in order for a critical theory of society to be critical of that society, it needs to hold that the organization of that society is inherently dominating, antagonistic, and miserable.
Oh, shit. He just said something so simple, but it's so important. Hang on. Let me see if I can find the exact moment. In other words, in order for a critical theory of society, hang on, let's just start right here.
In other words, in order for a critical theory of society to be critical of that society, it needs.
In other words, in order for a critical theory of society to be critical of that society, let me go back with this.
In order for a critical theory of society to be critical of that society.
In order for a critical theory of society to be critical of that society, remember, critical theory is related to critical race theory, critical queer theory, all the things that they claim are not taught in K through 12 schools. In order for a critical theory to be critical of that society,
it needs to hold that the organization of that society is inherently dominating, antagonistic, and miserable.
It needs to hold that the organization of that society is inherently dominating, antagonistic, and miserable. He has just literally told us that the entire point of critical theory, of which critical race theory is a part of it, is to frame society, the society it's being critical of, as inherently dominating, antagonistic, and miserable. That is the entire goal of critical theory. That is a mask off moment. Again, when these people tell you what they believe, you have to believe them, because they say the quiet part out loud all the time. So what does this mean? If the entire point of critical theory is to position the society it's being critical of as inherently dominating, antagonistic, and miserable, what do you think that means? That they are going to twist every single thing that happens to be the worst possible interpretation of what that thing is, because the goal of critical theory is not to tell the truth about something. The goal of critical theory is not to present a nuanced take in which you're looking at both sides. The only goal of critical theory, according to this guy who literally wrote the book about critical theory, is to position the society it's critiquing as inherently dominating, antagonistic, and miserable. That tells you a lot.
On this basis, Adorno holds that historical development should not be seen in conjunctures or cycles of boom and bust.
Exactly. Well done, Alex.
But as permanent catastrophe. Thus, following Benjamin, that things just go on is the catastrophe.
And then
Thus,
they blame
hell is
capitalism.
Not something that awaits
Exactly,
us,
Yasmin.
but this
well
life
done.
Here and now. Now, in the last section, I just want to sort of indicate why and how a Marxian critical theory that draws together these insights from Clark and Adorno, might be said to sort of hold this view, and how it might be sort of developed from a present vantage point. Now, in the first place, as I mentioned, sort of this approach to critical theory conceives of capitalist society as a historically specific negative totality.
Oh!
Right? So from this perspective,
critical theory sees capitalist society as a historically negative totality.
As Adorno says, society is understood as a sort of linking structure between human beings in which everything and everyone
exactly, Kaiwan
depend on everyone and everything.
You guys are really on point tonight. I am so happy. You guys are like really catching on. This is great. And it's so important that you'd be able to know this stuff and articulate it, because now what's going to happen when you really understand it is you're going to see this shit pop up everywhere. And we're going to see that tomorrow, I think, in our special Socialism Sunday stream. Jenny's getting inky with it, said, it's the snake eating its tail. Utopia will never be reached. Oh, no, utopia will never be reached. Of course not, because their utopia doesn't exist. They think it's going to be some sort of like brave new world, like everyone belongs to everyone else and everyone has everything they need and no one has kids, and the state is in charge of raising the kids and everyone else just having sex all the time with people and all this stuff. That's what they think their society is going to be, but it's really going to be more like 1984.